The following program is rated G and is suitable for viewing by all ages.
I think your title really, I think, fits. I think you've captured really the essence of the city. It's that kind of city.
After living here for a year, I think I finally get it, and I understand the essence of the city that people are talking about. My name is Alessia Proietti, and I don't really know how to introduce myself because I'm never on this side of the camera. So I'm from originally Montreal, Quebec, a pretty large city far away from Red Deer, Alberta, where I moved last fall to start my career as a journalist. Other than the fact that I had a friend here, I knew literally nothing about Red Deer, like legit nothing. And some of the things I did here weren't exactly the most flattering. Funny thing I heard of was like the rest stop capital.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was funny. Do you mind describing that a little bit more of where you heard that? Or?
Well, you know, again, and I'll use the word puzzling again, you know, or maybe frustrating is actually a better word, you know, to use it in that context, you know. So it's a 3-hour drive between Calgary and Edmonton.
A lot of them had never heard of Red Deer, Alberta.
Exactly.
Right, you know? Or that's that little place between Edmonton and Calgary, right, you know?
And that might be a factor too, sort of being the between, that we're neither one nor the other, we're ourselves.
And so typically, people would say, oh, Red Deer, Ken, Red Deer, yeah, we stopped there. You know, the kids wanted to use the washroom. And so I'd say, well, you stopped here. Well, did you see anything? Mighty fine washrooms. But I think we've overcome that now, I think.
Yeah, it's just the perfect compromise. You got two bigger centers, you know, just 150 kilometers down the road. You know, you got your city piece, but you have your rural values. You have your, you know, your amenities are here.
So Red Deer is a people city, and it's the people really who have, what I would say, the essence of the beating heart of Red Deer, you know.
People really make all the difference in everything, whether it's a job, a relationship, a friendship, and really in the community makeup. So I'm from Montreal, Quebec, a city of 1.7 million people, and I love my city. I love the architecture, the culture, the food, the art. But the one thing that I never really got from the city was a sense of community. It's something that you see on TV where the families are talking to each other and the neighbors are helping each other. And I thought, you know, is that just a city thing or is that a Montreal thing? People in that area weren't as inclined to, you know, be helpful to their neighbor. So only when I visited other parts of Canada, whether east or west, people actually smiled to each other on the streets, or they said hello, and for me that was really foreign at first and kind of shocking. It took a while to get used to it because in the city, you're seen as kind of weird if you say hello or like you want something. In the summer of 2021, I moved to Lake Louise, which was a vastly different area than what I was used to. It was an extremely isolated community, just 1,000 people, and maybe even less because it was in the pandemic at this time. I started working there as a front desk agent at a hotel, and it was a great experience. Like, I made a lot of friends, I got to learn a lot, and be in a place that people, you know, travel the whole world to go see. But the one thing I noticed about people that were there is that we were all there to pave our way. I was there to get established in the province, and other people were there for vastly different reasons. So it was a very transient kind of population, therefore making it pretty difficult to form a tight-knit community. So about 4 months later, I moved to Red Deer, and I noticed once again, you know, city of 100,000 people now, it was another different ball game than what I was used to. So at the time, you know, I just had 2 luggages in hand. I was renting my friend's couch, which was like a new low. But what I thought was a culture shock almost was how every single person that I interacted with was willing and eager to help me out. And what was really cool is that in my work as a journalist, I was writing an extremely high amount of stories about people in the community that were creating charity events and fundraisers and volunteer efforts, and I thought that was just really cool to see. It's something that I had never seen before. So because of this, I really wanted to understand why Red Deer was like this. And so we went all the way back to the beginning to take a look at the history of why Red Deer has this culture of volunteerism.
My name is Michael Daw. I'm a historian. Well, my family has been here for over 100 years on both my mother and my father's side of the family. I'm fifth generation Red Deerian. People say, well, where are you from? I just say I'm from Red Deer.
You said that this room was very special to you. Why was it?
Well, this is where I worked for, I guess, 38 years. I was the Red Deer's first archivist historian, and when I started the archives, it was basically this room. And as the collection grew, now the archives isn't here anymore. It's moved over to a new site because it outgrew the space out here, and the museum has taken over.
How would you describe Red Deer in your own words?
Well, it's a very vibrant community with a very high level of volunteerism. We have a real name for that, and you know, that helps build a real sense of community when you're able to have that.
And when you think back throughout all these years, what are some names that stick out to you as big contributors into the Red Deer community?
Some that I think of that have had some recognition is, you know, we have Taylor Drive and Taylor Bridge. That's named after Dr. Ethel Taylor. She was the first woman elected to Red Deer City Council in 1961, but she was a phenomenal volunteer. She really exemplified service to others, but not looking for much from herself other than the satisfaction of helping other people. And to the extent that we literally named one of our major roadways in Red Deer after her. It's been one of the mainstays of the community, maybe because our roots were as a relatively small town, and as we grew, we didn't lose that small town commitment to your neighbors and friends and family.
You know, a city can be cold and a city can be impersonal when it broadcasts itself as a city beyond its own people. But I came to Red Deer in 1996, and I had traveled quite a bit with my employer in those days. And so over a very short period of time, I came to see Red Deer as really a people city. It's not a building city. It's not a city, you know, necessarily a city because it has taller infrastructure or big arenas or whatever the case may be. So Red Deer is a people city. And it's the people really who have what I would say the essence of the beating heart of Red Deer. You know, we have a tremendous location in Alberta and all those things, and we have the beautiful Red Deer River running through it. And all those things are gorgeous and wonderful. They're fantastic. However, they pale when you look at the spirit and the heart of its people. People that look after each other, people that support each other, people that have a can-do attitude. And I know I promised I'd only take a few words, so I think I've blown that promise. But I just want to let you know that in this city, it's people that matter. They matter. I've had a couple of traumatic events in my life since coming to Red Deer. They've been character shaping in many ways. One was a major house fire in 2003. This was Boxing Day. This is the day after Christmas Day, you know, and just an accidental fire. We had to leave our home for 5 months. You know, we didn't lose the home. It didn't burn to the ground, but everything was stripped out from the inside. We lost everything. In those 5 months, the community, you know, my friends and strangers, you know, we took a rental up in West Park, and the people up in West Park said, wow, this is a family, you know, that's had their backsides kicked and all that kind of stuff. People will start sending over clothes, and they'll start sending over food, and they'll, and all those things. And it was just touching. And I was not mayor in those days, and I was not a councillor in those days. I was just a working person in those days. And so the community reached out then, and just really, it was just an amazing outreach. I could give you a dozen examples of the quiet heroes that we have across our city, that just continue to build community in a quiet way. You're going to encounter some of them in your journey, and over your years that I hope you'll spend in Red Deer, you're going to encounter a lot more. This city is full of heroes everywhere.
When I went out into the community and asked them, who's a major contributor in the community or one of those quiet heroes, almost everyone said one person. And this woman is, emblematic to the culture of volunteerism in the community. She was serving as the board chair and is basically one of the major reasons why the 2019 Canada Winter Games even came to Red Deer.
In the 2019 games, it was unbelievable. The vibe of the city was it was probably the coldest temperatures that we've ever had to host games, but everybody was so excited that you felt the heat and the passion that they had. My name is Lynn Radford, and I am a resident of Red Deer, Alberta. I always have had that, have to help your neighbor kind of spirit. That I think we were raised that way. But once my husband and I moved to Red Deer with our very young family at that time, thought that we should get involved and we should help out. And so you start with small increments, and whether it's a sports team you are helping out or a local club that you were part of, you do that. And eventually you start to see that there are issues in the community or issues in the club that could use some problem solving, and that's probably where I started out.
This woman was able to spearhead the creation of many buildings in the Red Deer city skyline. The Ronald McDonald House, the Paderni Centre Curling Club, Shell Fundraise for Westerner Park Event Centre, and the Canada Games celebration downtown alongside the Gary W. Harris Canada Games Centre at Red Deer Polytechnic.
So I became part of the Red Deer College at that time, now Polytechnic Board of Directors. And while I was doing some work with them, and I was also on the Alberta Sport, Recreation, Parks and Wildlife Provincial Board, I recognized that in 2019 we were going to host the Games. Alberta was going to have an opportunity to host the Games, and I knew that Red Deer needed it. We were really struggling as a community to find a way to build new facilities. Between the needs for the Red Deer Polytechnic and the college, they couldn't get a dedicated sports facility. And when you marry that with the fact that we would need some facilities for the games, I brought the two groups together and I said, let's work on this.
Well, speaking of bringing the people together, do you mind describing to me where we are right now?
Wow, geez, this is great. We're in the Gary W. Harris Canada Games Centre. We were very fortunate. For the games, once again, we raised a phenomenal, most money ever raised in a games since 1967. In 50 some years, it was the most money ever raised in a games. But just as important was all the time. Yeah. We never had any problem getting the volunteers. We were one of the few communities that has been able to fulfill the quota for volunteers. And it was cold that week. And I think people actually recognized how important it was. And then they recognized that if we do this, we get facilities like this one. We get the facilities down at Great Chief Park, and they redid the whole facility there for the speed skating, outdoor speed skating, and the football turf and that. We got extra facilities out at Riverbend. We got the new arena. And when you go on, you get all of those facilities. Those are the physical things. And then the other thing we needed to do is we needed to elevate our volunteers. We needed to give them a bigger experience so they could go and make bigger and better experiences within whatever groups that they're part of. Yeah. And we needed to do that. And so we were very focused on also making sure that our volunteers had some wonderful learning experiences. Fun, but learning. Not one person does this, just like everybody should know that. And it takes a whole community to do this. And it takes, it takes your municipality, it takes your corporate sponsors, it takes your volunteers, it takes your administrations, all to come together and make things happen. And I've been very fortunate to work with some dynamic people. But all of that just cemented, first of all, how important it was to have facilities for our children. And now it's how important it is to have facilities, programs, and that's for our grandchildren.
Well, I think the greatest compliment, that we can give to anybody is that they're planting trees that they'll never see the shade of, if you will. So in other words, it takes a great deal of vision, a great deal of self-sacrifice and service to start projects and to do things that you essentially won't benefit from. And we have so many of those community builders that have done that.
Or what role does contribution play in everyone's maybe personal lives here in Red Deer?
Well, it makes it a much more full life. You become more connected. You get to know the people in your neighborhood. You get to know people in the other parts of the city. It gives you an outlet of doing something productive that is quite rewarding personally as well as to the community that you're serving. And I think all of those things contribute to the sense of well-being and just making for a much healthier community.
This office, this desk, City Hall, it's just an avenue of service. It's actually no greater, I mean this, it's actually no greater than that soccer coach, than that volunteer, than that person that's working at a food bank today, that's filling hampers and that kind of thing. It's just an avenue of service. That's what it is. So that, again, I'll just say, is part of the magic of Red Deer.
You really have to be almost living in Red Deer to fully understand it. It's like the most known yet unknown city in Alberta. I mean, everyone knows that Red Deer is here. It's in between Calgary and Edmonton. They pass through it daily, but nobody really knows anything about it. And so that's kind of what I want to explore. What I noticed in this city is that people's reputations and popularity weren't based off of what they did for a job or what social class they were part of, but it was really based on what they did to contribute back into their community. That's why I really wanted to start this project and why I put a team together with local videographer Riley Surian and local journalist Sean McIntosh. Together, we really want to take the viewer with us on this journey to get to know the people of Red Deer and their currency of contribution. That's it, we're done. Okay, guys.